not a lot has necessarily been written about Claire Ruth. So I know you speak about her in your book. Can you share a little bit of your thoughts about her?
Yeah, she's a very interesting person. First of all, as you know, absolutely gorgeous. She was, a great 1920s beauty. He met her in about 1923. He was married at the time. He had married originally a woman who was about 16 years old, and really someone who wasn't ready for the sort of fame that Ruth was experiencing. Ruth didn't have really a family of his own at all. And suddenly in 23, he found this very sharp, very articulate individual, Claire Merritt, who was listening to him and who understood his conflict with Major League Baseball, who articulated his views very well, and he became very, in some ways, I think, very dependent on her and her intelligence. It allowed him to focus on baseball. And here was someone who saw his point of view, who could articulate his point of view, who could really kind of step in and serve as a manager. And you don't have a business manager. You don't have an agent the way you would have an agent today. Now, he had this guy named Christy Walsh who did help him with some promotional things. But really, an awful lot of business was left to Claire, who had a very sharp business mind, and she was very aggressive. As I told your dad, if she was around today, she would probably be a major sports agent or something like that. And if she was born maybe 40 or 50 years in the future, she might be, the president of a league or something. I think people are still, even today, uncomfortable with a woman who is that aggressive, sure of herself, especially in the sporting world. And that's Claire Ruth. So Babe Ruth, became increasingly dependent on Claire Ruth. They moved in together. So it was both a love affair, but also it was, it was a great business partnership, and it took tremendous pressure off of Ruth, and it allowed him to order his life. Because remember, he lives in tremendous chaos. Wherever he goes, crowds greet him. It must have been, for a very, very poor kid coming out of Baltimore, a very confusing experience. And he himself said it just took him a long time to kind of get his life in order. And Claire was essential to getting his life in order. She also understood baseball very well, and she wasn't shy about, expressing her views. And for a woman at that time in the 1920s to express her views in that way, unsettled an awful lot of people. She was not shy, and that sort of gender thing then was used against Ruth later on. If we take him on as a manager, is Claire Ruth going to be the co-manager? And the fact of the matter is, she'd certainly have a position somewhere. So that's very important. But I think really she allowed him to order his life and focus on baseball. And I think more than anything else, she brought that stability that he desperately needed, especially in the early 1920s, early to mid 1920s, when his life was so chaotic. And I know, you become different people at different points in your life. And in the 1920s, 1930s, yeah, she was a very, and I would say someone, I don't think she was necessarily a feminist, but she certainly was she certainly believed that she had the right to express loud opinions and firm opinions about how baseball should be played, how Ruth should be treated, that sort of thing. Again, even for today, Brent, I think she'd be kind of an outlier in a lot of ways.